So welcome everyone. My name is Shawani Howard-Baptiste, and I am a board member on the American Association of Blacks in Higher Education. I'm also joined by my partner in crime and friend, Dr. Jennifer Ellis. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to share my screen. So welcome this afternoon to the Summer Research Writing Bootcamp. This is our second iteration of our camp, and we're so excited to offer this opportunity to our membership again for the second year. So today we're not going to take much time at all. We just had a couple of slides and we wanted to review a little bit more detailed information about the Writing Bootcamp, expectations, and roles and responsibilities. So our overview for today is really just to do a brief welcome and introduction of myself and Dr. Ellis. We'll talk about the Research Writing Bootcamp itself, what the Writing Bootcamp format will be in terms of a cohort model, which we'll talk a little bit more about, our Wednesday workshops, and next steps. And then lastly, there'll be an opportunity for any questions that you all might have today. So the AABHE Writing Research Bootcamp is an opportunity that we've been providing to memberships now for the second year. AABHE is really committed to Blacks in higher education, and not just in words, but in action. So we know that whether it's faculty, staff, researchers, administrators, we can all certainly be supported by additional ways to connect with one another. So the first thing we want you to do is to meet our facilitators. So I apologize for the text there. So I'll go first. My name is Shawani Howard-Baptiste. I serve as the interim program director for the Masters of Public Health here at the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga. And I'm also an associate professor. And then I'll allow Dr. Ellis to introduce herself.
Hi, everybody, and excuse my sabbatical attire, but I am Jennifer Ellis, and I am an associate professor at UTC in the School of Education and the director of STEM education, and I'm very happy to be with you all today.
Thank you, Dr. Ellis. So just to remind you all, our boot camp starts Monday, June 21st and ends on Friday, July the 9th. So what we're talking about today is, one of the things we'll talk about today is what we're calling our Wednesday workshops. So on Wednesdays, we will have trained facilitators that are going to give all of us some really strategic information, insight, and feedback about our writing. And so that will happen on Wednesdays, but we will certainly have additional opportunities throughout that 3-week period where Dr. Ellis and I will serve as your facilitators and coaches. So the objective is really to create a space and time in your own schedules to make significant progress in your writing goals. You're going to be receiving some pre-workshop information in the coming weeks that will help really guide Jennifer and I on helping you achieve those goals. So whether you're working on a program evaluation, a self-study, an accreditation report, an article, finishing your dissertation, whatever your writing needs are, we want to make sure that we're customizing those opportunities to fit your personal goals. We want to share a multitude of writing resources, but also recommendations that we can all utilize to improve our writing. We want to talk about strategies to sustain writing habits and offer both camaraderie, accountability, and fun. So our format this year will be a cohort model. So Dr. Ellis is all things technology. She makes sure everything that's happening behind the scenes in our online platform is working to a T. And this is really one of her true skill sets. So with the cohort model, we're going to work in small groups, up to about 6 to 8 members. One of the things that we received from feedback last year is we want to make sure that the groups feel small enough so that you all, in terms of the groups that you're in, will have the time and attention needed to connect with one another and support one another. So we have 8 kind of identified groups. So those who might be working on their thesis or dissertation, we'll group those individuals together. Those who might be seeking the rank of assistant professor or associate professor, research, administrator, staff, or even just a collaborative of wanting to talk about racial injustices or COVID-19, kind of more relevant hot topics that are going on in higher education right now. So there's a lot of different myriads and types of groups that we've identified. So we want to make sure that we're customizing those opportunities to meet your specific needs. So Dr. Ellis, jump in anytime if you have anything else to add.
I will say, last year we had heavy representation in the dissertation group. Mm-hmm. So, just based off of what you all need, there may be some shifts around in those respective groups, depending on where you are in a thesis. And I think we end up combining groups 1 and 2, thesis and dissertation. So depending on where you are in the process, we may need to move members around that first week just so we find the best match for all of you, so you can be successful and not feel that you're either holding your group back or your group isn't excelling at the rate that you need. So just be patient with us as we go through this. And that's why it's very important. I know Dr. Howard-Baptiste will talk about the pre-survey, but if you could be as descriptive as you can in that pre-survey, that would really help me in determining what groups would best fit your needs.
Perfect. Thank you for that, Dr. Ellis. So each group will have access to, again, mentor check-in. So whether that's weekly, bi-weekly, we'll work with each of those groups to identify what those specific needs are. So as Dr. Ellis said, we're really here to create a format and customize assistance for your professional development. So on Wednesdays at 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, we'll have that 1 hour professional development, those Wednesday workshops, where we have really key individuals who are trained in the field across multiple disciplines to really talk about those strategies that I think will really launch all of us to the next level. So we'll have weekly productivity check-ins. So again, all of these types of activities are happening online. You'll have designated online rooms for writing. And so this was an idea that Dr. Ellis came up with last summer, is sometimes, I know we're all so busy, but if we can designate, let's say, 9:30 to 11:30 on our calendars, and we block it off, and this is part of our professional development. So sometimes just blocking that time off on your calendar, not rearranging it to ensure that you have time that's dedicated to write. And sometimes even we'll have Zoom links that you don't necessarily have to speak when you're on that link, but it gives you that accountability to show others you're not available at that time, you are busy with your writing. So we want to make sure that we're providing structure and accountability. And again, if there are other needs that come up for you all, please let us know. So as I mentioned earlier, Dr. Ellis, you want to add?
I was just going to say, each one of the cohorts and the smaller groups will have their own Zoom links. And what we found even from last year that, and when I checked periodically, groups that met last summer, they were still using those links way beyond, in the fall and in the spring. So if you need an extension on your links, if you click on it and it's, March and your group can't access it, just let us know and we'll go in there and change the settings accordingly. And then as Dr. HB had mentioned, we also have one that's just a generic writing open lab session that you could use at any time. And it, like I said, a great way to just plug in. If somebody is like, oh, are you in a Zoom? Yes, I'm in a Zoom meeting. I'm booked. I'm fully booked. So just make sure you protect your time.
Exactly. Thank you for that, Dr. Ellis. And that's what we mean by protecting your time, is taking the time to put that link on your calendar. So it's not just you're busy, but you're busy, there's a title to what you're doing, and there's a link that's provided. So if anyone wanted to check your Outlook calendar, as Dr. Ellis said, you are not available at that particular time. So that link is available to you all and to your group at your leisure. So if you all want to connect on, Sunday nights or Tuesday afternoons, whether it's one person or everyone in your cohort, you have the flexibility to use that link at any point for your own discretion. So our workshop facilitators are Dr. Charlene Barnes-Rowland and Dr. Michelle Deardorff. So these are two individuals that you will be seeing either pre-recorded sessions and additional sessions, live sessions on Wednesday, June 23rd, June 30th, and July 7th. So make sure you mark your calendar for those particular dates from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So it could be meant to be a working lunch. They're going to provide a series of really key topic areas. So Dr. Barnes-Rowland is going to talk specifically about what it's like to get information and the things you need to do. She's an editor-in-chief of a national journal, the the Negro Educational Review, NER. So what she'll do as an editor-in-chief, which I think is a phenomenal opportunity, is share with us things that you need to know from the editor's perspective to increase the likelihood of your manuscript being accepted for publication. We'll also have Dr. Michelle Deardorff, who was one of our facilitators from last year, and she's so gracious to come back and connect with us this summer. So they'll talk about everything from your literature review, networking, how do you choose the right journal? How do you write for a journal? What is the editing process? How to start writing? So again, if there are other topics that you feel like, hey, I would really benefit from, please let us know so we can customize this as much as we can during the time that we have. So Dr. Ellis has put together a sample productivity shared spreadsheet. So I'll turn this over to her so she can share a little bit more about how the format will actually work.
Sorry, and I probably should have stayed where I was. I forgot this slide was on there. But what I've done, I'm an Excel person, and so let me preface this by saying you are not required to use this. These are just tools that you may find helpful. So it's just another way for you to have some accountability, that you can set some goals. So you could say, this week I plan to write for 1 hour, and you would put that in there. At the end of the week, you would mark how much you wrote. So it could be 1 hour or 2 hours or 30 minutes or whatever the case may be, and you could just visually see how your productivity has been over the summer, if that's helpful for you. But it was helpful for me at a time for one of the groups I was in, that we had some way to chart our progress, or to kind of as a visual to say, you need to step your game up. So these things will be available in your groups folder, and you'll have access to that as well. We're going to do everything in a Google Drive folder that seemed to work last year as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Ellis. And as she said, this is really an accountability tool. So it's really meant to keep you accountable in regards to your progress. And so I will add, progress looks different for every single person during this 3-week writing research boot camp. And so that's why it's writing and research. Last summer, we had groups that were more focused on collecting, all of the articles that they needed to write, but some of them included, like, they have a manuscript that was a revise and resubmit, but they hadn't had the time to really dedicate to editing it. I know this summer we have individuals who are working on a self-study for their licensure and accreditation. So whatever your project or writing or research looks like, accountability is also going to look different. So depending upon what you need, whether it's, I work in public health, so sometimes my accountability is scheduling meetings and meeting with community partners, and I need that information to be able to collect data. So whatever your writing needs are and research needs are, just be as explicit as you can, so that will help you increase your level of productivity. So in terms of next steps, if you haven't already done so, Monday, June the 14th is the last day to sign up for the Writing Research Bootcamp. So I'm happy to drop the link in the chat after our time together. You do need to be a member, so you can join AABHE as well, so that you can get all the benefits from this Writing Research Bootcamp. Make sure you mark your calendar for those Wednesdays, June 23rd, June 30th, and July 7th from 1 to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We are going to record those sessions and make those available to you. So even though there may be times that you may not be available, but you certainly, and trust me, you certainly want access to this information, those items will be recorded and then shared with our membership right after. We're also going to send an email to you by next Friday, June 18th, to just give us a little bit more information about what your writing and research needs are. As Dr. Ellis mentioned before, we want to make sure that we're customizing these groups and that the groups reflect the needs so that you all can actually support one another. So be on the lookout for that email by the end of next week. And again, it'll just be a link. It'll be just a quick link that you can provide us a little bit more detailed information about your writing research needs. And that's that pre-writing workshop survey that you will get next week. So one of the things that we realized from last summer, kind of early in the pandemic, is that we still needed and wanted opportunities to connect and see one another in a safe space. And so one of the things that we're offering this summer that we're really excited about is more professional networking opportunities and social events. So we're trying to coordinate an old school dance party, which went over really well if you were able to attend our conference in March. Our president, Derek Rivas, is quite entertaining, we'll say. And so he served as the DJ, and I think we all had a good time. Dr. Ellis has connections to fine places and has a family friend that's going to help us coordinate a wine and cheese tasting all via Zoom. So we want to make sure that we are working hard, but we're also playing hard and finding ways to connect and support you all, not just in the academic world, but also in our personal and professional lives as well. So again, one thing that we want you to keep in mind that has been our motto for the last year is that don't let perfect get in the way of submission. I know I'm guilty of this. I know Dr. Ellis has shared this before, is that sometimes we can get caught up in saying, well, it's not done, it's not perfect yet, versus we have to release it and let it go so we can get the feedback that we need in order for our writing to be published so that we can be successful. So again, this is our motto that we'll remind ourselves of throughout our time this summer. So this is an opportunity. If there's any questions that you all might have, I'm happy to answer them. I see we have a couple of questions in the chat. So the first question, when will the pre-survey be administered? So yes, you will be receiving that early next week, which will then give Dr. Ellis and I a couple of days to pull that information so that we're able to share that with you. Once we have that pre-workshop information and we have some of that initial data from you all based on what you all submitted when you signed up through the AABHE link. So once we have that information, our team is recording that information and sharing it with us on a weekly basis. So we can't really formalize our groups until our enrollment period has ended. So we wanted to extend it beyond today, as Dr. Ellis suggested, so that if there are new people who are listening in but haven't had a chance to register, that they have the time to do that. So Monday will be the last day to register for the Writing Research Bootcamp. And once that is done, Dr. Ellis and I will be working really Monday night into Tuesday to pull all that information together to share it with you all so that you'll have the contact information for your group, you know what group you will be in, and that we can really strategize and customize each of the writing groups. Another question, are you all able to confirm if we are registered for the upcoming workshops? I don't recall receiving confirmation. If you're not sure, if you are registered, please just send me an email and I'll drop my email in the chat and just say, hey, Shawani, can you just confirm if I am registered? I'm happy to check on the status. So we do have a roster currently of about maybe 40 participants who have registered thus far. So if you're not sure of your registration status, just send me an email and I'm happy to confirm. Next question. This is great. I definitely want the link. I don't believe I have been able to register. Okay, I will drop the link in the chat. Is there a group for messy, overcommitted faculty, grad students? Yes, yes, and yes. All of us, I can speak for myself, I think, and Dr. Ellis as well. We have been faculty. We are messy, we are overcommitted, and we have so many projects going on, the ones you can see, but also probably the ones that you can't see. So whoever wrote that, you are in the right group, welcome, welcome home, and we'll make sure that we all support each other and strategize together. What is your email? I don't see it. Okay, let me send again. So it's Shawani-Howard@utc.edu. So hopefully everyone will get that. Are there any other questions either in the chat or you all would like to ask?
Dr. HB, oh, you see.
Yes, go ahead, Dr. Ellis.
Oh, never mind. I was gonna say, are you gonna put the link to the registration in the chat as well?
Yes, I'll drop that in there now. Are there any other questions about the format? So I just dropped the link in the chat for signing up. So if you're interested in signing up or you want to share the link with others, please feel free to do so. My email address is in there as well. If you have any additional questions or need to confirm your registration, I'm happy to check on that status. So again, don't feel compelled that you have to be a faculty member, that you have to be a researcher, that you have to work directly in higher education. This is really a space for Blacks in higher education. So I would say even with our president, we don't see Blacks in higher education as higher education being that only space. So we have had consultants, we've had graduate students, we've had people who are working on advanced degrees. We've even had undergraduate students who are just looking to learn more of what it means to be a Black professional in higher education. So whatever your needs may be, feel free to even send me an email to say, hey, Shawani, I'm not sure if this is a good fit for me, but I'm interested in learning more. I'm happy to have a conversation offline to determine what your professional needs might be and how AABHE can support.
Shawani, excuse me, Teresa Chapman here, Rice University. Quick question for you.
Yes, ma'am.
So I noticed that this workshop was entitled number 2.
Mhm.
So I take it you've had one before. Is
Yeah.
there a recording that we can get to? And is there any information from one that you can recall that you may want to mention that would be helpful for us today?
Good question, Teresa. So yes, the first one was last summer, and I would say that was our pilot writing research boot camp during the pandemic. Some of our professional advisors through AABHE really quickly realized what the needs are and what we needed to do as an organization to pivot. And so one of those ways that we strategized to pivot was to provide more customized opportunities for faculty, staff, and those associated with higher education to work on their writing, research, or whatever productivity may look like for them in regards to promotion. So one of the things we did last time was we did do an evaluation. So we have that evaluation data. And Dr. Ellis, feel free to chime in if you want to pull anything from that. The recordings were from last summer, from those Wednesday workshops were recorded. So I can follow up and see if our membership can have access to the recordings. If you're suggesting that, Teresa, from last year, we can certainly follow up on that information, but also customizing what we're doing this summer based on the feedback that we got from last year, but also what you all tell us that you need. I think one of the unique things that we learned from last year is that I think with any of these opportunities, you get out of it what you put into it. And so if you decide, you know, I'm really looking to get this publication out, I really want to finish another chapter in my dissertation, those who were committed, and I think Dr. Ellis shared last year, is that the dissertation group was probably the most productive group of all the groups. And so as she mentioned earlier, they continue to meet on that Zoom link to have that level of accountability a year later. The question was, do you have to be a member to participate? Yes, you do. And so I'll drop the link in the chat as well for our to sign up for membership. And so once you register it, I think it asks you, are you a member or you plan to become a member by the time that the workshop actually starts. So I'll drop the link in the chat for the membership as well on how to become a member of AABHE. Another question. So here's the link I'm dropping in the chat now for membership. Another question was, I believe there is a code shared in a recent AABHE event for a membership discount. Can anyone share that here so we can renew the membership? Let me check to see about that membership code. I don't remember it off the top of my head. We have a consulting firm that we work with, and they develop that code and then share it with individuals. So if anyone on the call knows of the code, feel free to drop it in the chat. Otherwise, I can follow up.
Yeah, I think it was either AABHE 2020 or 2021, but I'm not sure. I don't know, but I know there was a definitive date. So I don't know if that time has expired.
Okay. So I can follow up with our consultant and see if there's a code for the writing boot camp. Other questions? I'm just reading the chat now. Any tips just on terms of, and Dr. Ellis, feel free to chime in, any tips on keeping us on track and how to increase our productivity?
I mean, I think the best thing that you could do now for yourself is to carve out a realistic amount of time for you to write, and a time that you can be consistent with. So even if it's, you know, I'm not saying just as to be disrespectful, but if it's just 30 minutes or 15 minutes a day, carve that out and respect yourself as a professional, that you deserve 30, 15 minutes every day or 2-3 times a week to do this. And so that way, when these 6 weeks fly by, you won't have the regret of, I wish I would have. That's what I'm on. This is from somebody who's on sabbatical, who still has goals that I have to complete between now and the end of this boot camp. So this boot camp is very timely for me, because I have very aggressive writing goals that I have got to get accomplished, because my sabbatical was not respected, which is another story. And I can tell you what not to do when you're on sabbatical. But I think that's the biggest piece, is really carving out that time, blocking the time off now on your calendar. If that means going someplace else, I mean, I know it's a pandemic, and if you're on campus, if that means going to the library during that time period, or going to the Zoom location, do something different to really change up what it is that you're doing, so you can be productive during this time. I think that's the biggest thing, if you can start planning that now.
Yeah, go ahead, Teresa.
Okay, thank you. So I did email you already to ask you to confirm that I am registered for this. But my question, so if I am registered, I registered for the section where it's just general publications, something like that. So did, and I think you said last year was your first year doing this. So from that general publications group, did they actually get something out?
Yes, they did. So that publication group from last year, they worked on their conference proceedings from the 2020 conference. No, I'm sorry, the 2019 conference. So our 2020 AABHE conference became virtual this year. So we were supposed to be in person in South Carolina for our conference March of last year. So when that was postponed, the individuals who were accepted to present at the conference, they had already really begun much of the writing and research for our national conference. And so they worked on their conference proceedings. And so that's what they were able to complete as a result of their publication and work, was the conference proceedings. So that certainly was a publication that they were able to complete at the end of the writing boot camp.
Oh, okay, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I guess it just depends on what it is that you want. So we have people who have, you know, group goals, and then you as a group, you can kind of figure out. So I think there's one that's like collaborative research, looking at AABHE and some of the different webinars that we had, and kind of trying to figure out what can be written about that. But if you have your own, like the general, it could be, we can't guarantee that everybody who's in this general group has the same specific goals. So, you know, going into it, make sure you really know what your writing goals are. So you can make sure you meet those, because the people in your cohort or your may be a completely different, everybody has their own individual agenda. But you all can work together as a team just to hold each other accountable for that particular agenda, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ellis. Thank you for your question, Teresa. Any other questions?
I got one.
Yes.
Hi everybody. I was if you have a few different things going on that's that messy faculty student, how what's a good way to delineate, to decide what project to work on for this group?
Okay, so I would look at what your timeline is in terms of what is most pressing. So I think for you as a scholar, you need to decide for yourself, what is it that I really need to accomplish as a result of this boot camp? So if there's something that's due, let's say early August, then that may be the most pressing. If you know that there's something that's more longstanding that you need to get started to kind of get momentum, that's a possibility. I think it really depends on what your goals are. Some of the goals could actually be dedicated time to writing, but some of the other goals could be dedicated time to research. And so Dr. Ellis has been really good about strategizing ways to kind of juggle multiple entities as well. So I think is that part of that, and this I would actually encourage everyone to think about, what is it that you want to accomplish as a result of this boot camp? Is it, you know, completing a lit review? Is it revising a document or manuscript that already exists? Is it editing that document? Is it, how do I have all these ideas, but I don't know where to get started. So really kind of brainstorming what is the product, what is it that you want to get out of this as a result of the boot camp, so that when you start on the 21st of June to July 9th, that you're able to track your progress and see that you are able to meet your professional goals. So I hope that answers your question. I think is looking at the time that you have, even over those next 3 weeks. So if you know you've got other major work commitments, then you may have to kind of peel back and say, okay, what can I realistically do? Can I commit, as Dr. Ellis said, you know, blocking out that time on your calendar is so essential, so that when other people see it, you're letting them know as well as yourself what your commitment is. And so last summer, personally, that was very helpful for me. I was in a new role. We had an accreditation report due early fall. And so being in a new space, I had to get started. So for me, blocking out time from like 9 to noon on Friday. So when people said, hey, Shawani, you know, can you meet at this time? I said, sorry, I'm not available. And I realized that people will adjust and they will find another time for everyone to be able to meet. So blocking that time off on your calendar, as Dr. Ellis stated, was really essential. So whether it's 30 minutes a day, Monday through Friday, a block of time, 1 or 2 days a week, finding that time in your calendar and being consistent is really important. So I hope that answers your question.
And I would also suggest to kind of write down those projects that you would love to get done. And then I like to start with kind of like paying off credit card debt. What has the smallest balance that you know you can get off and kind of give you some instant gratification. And so that may be a great way to start is, okay, this one needs the least amount of work. I'll start there and kind of go from there.
That is it, Dave Ramsey, the financial planner, that effect?
Him, Susie Orman, all of them.
Start small, build our confidence, and then we'll grow from there.
Yeah, and especially if you're, I mean, if it's already messy, you're already overcommitted, then you may need to do that. And that's, you know, I'm speaking to myself as well. That's what I'm going to be doing is, you know, what are the ones I know I can get out in the next, you know, 2-3 weeks, and then 4 or 5 weeks and 6 weeks on down. And so that's the strategy I'm going to be using.
I have another question, Shawani. Would you please do me a favor? I think you answered one of my questions, like what is the official website for AABHE?
Mhm.
But when I go to that site, because I don't know if you all know this, but there's several sites that will come up for AABHE, which is why I asked that question. So when I went to that site that you dropped in the chat feature, I go to that page and I don't see where to log on as a member. Can you please go to that site and tell me where to go? I just don't understand why.
So we are in the process, literally, of revamping our website. And our new website is going to launch, I think, July 15th. So
Okay.
I'm looking at it as well. And you're right, it's not as easy to navigate. I know they've removed some of those links so that they can update it more. Yeah, you're right.
And the reason I'm asking is because I think my membership is current, but I don't want anything to slip. I really want to participate. I'm already excited from the things that you and Jennifer are saying to me.
Awesome.
And so I want to make sure that I am registered for this and that my membership is current, because I will pay it right now if it's not, but I need to be able to log on.
Well,
to
since you already emailed me, as soon as we wrap up our time here together, I will look up the status of your membership. And I do have that call sheet from our consultants that shared it. So she just shared the most recent, I think as of Monday, those who have registered for the conference. So that way I'll be able to tell you what your membership status is.
Because would it even allow me to register for that if I was not a member?
I think it will allow you to register because there's one of the buttons or questions that you have to answer is whether or not you're a member and you intend to renew your membership or have a membership by June 21st. So what we've been instructed is that we are sharing this information broadly, and that on June 21st, our consultant will check the status of all the people who have registered for the conference to ensure that they are going to be able to access the workshop and all the materials. So
yeah, I see that you are registered for this session, but like Shawani said, we don't have a cross check to make sure that you are an official member. You indicated yes on the kind of the self-evaluation portion of it, but that piece hasn't been done to double check to verify. Correct, Shawani?
Yes.
Yeah.
Teresa, you know what? I'm looking at our document now, and
yeah, I see her name is on there.
Yep. So I'm looking at our membership, and Teresa, it looks like Chapman, your membership expires April 28th, 2022.
Oh, great. Okay.
So
Yay. Thank you. Thank you all so much.
Our pleasure.
Good afternoon, Dr. Howard Batiste.
Hi, Tawana, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Good, thank you.
All this talk about membership expiry, I just thought I'd check. What is the actual calendar year? Is it January to December, or is it from when you register? I'm not sure. I joined a few months ago and I'm not sure what I have.
Great question, Tawana. It is based on your date of membership. So my membership expires in July because that's when I started. My membership was in 2018. So your start of your membership and expiration of your membership is 1 year later from the day that you signed up. So you should be in good shape, Tawana.
Okay. Does it even tell you when I joined? I can't even remember.
You joined. Oh, y'all are testing my eyesight. You joined November 13th.
Of 2020. Okay.
Yes, of 2020. So yours doesn't expire until November of this year.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Well, if there aren't any additional questions, Again, we thank you for joining us today. We look forward to really having a phenomenal experience, learning a lot. Dr. Ellis and I, certainly we are taking notes as we're facilitating these workshops. So we look forward to supporting you. Be on the lookout for that link sometime probably mid next week, maybe Wednesday or Thursday, so that we can get more detailed information about your writing goals. So that we customize your experience and that you are in the appropriate group so that you can all be productive. If you have questions, again, please feel free to reach out to me. Happy to answer any questions and make sure that everyone is comfortable and excited to get started on Monday, June 21st. Awesome. Well, thank you all. We appreciate your time and attention today. This recording will be shared.